Mock Draft Monday here on the Draft Hub YouTube channel. A little bit of a later Mock Draft Monday, but it is still a mock draft and it is still Monday. Today, we are going to be doing my first round mock for the 2026 NFL Draft a little early. This is after week 2 of the NFL season, but at the time of recording, and maybe at the time of you watching it, depending on when you're watching it, this is going to be in the process of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Houston Texans, and then the Chargers and the Raiders are later on tonight. So I am cheating a little bit, but that's the way that this series is going to roll. I'm going to be a couple games behind, be that as it may. But I got a good one for you guys this week. I'm super excited to roll this one out to you. A couple different scenarios that we're not used to in other mock drafts, or even the mock draft that I had last week. So before we get into it, if you enjoy mock drafts, college football content, NFL content, anything like that, NFL draft content, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are slowly but surely building momentum towards that 500 subscriber mark, and I would love to do that before October. A little bit of a ballsy, lofty expectation, but who knows? We'll see what we can get to. So without further delay, let's get into it. This is not the correct draft order, and I'm realizing that now because I'm looking at it, and how are the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts picking at number 8? So, all right, we're going to play around with this draft order because that's the draft order that I already did a draft, my draft prep for. I guess I completely forgot to look at the way that this order was. I knew a couple of teams were going to be out of order because teams like the Texans, the Buccaneers have only played one game. So I knew it was going to be a little out of order, but not this out of order. So without further delay, let's get into it. We have the New Orleans Saints at number 1 overall in this one. So I'm going to go different with this. I feel like you see a quarterback every single pick for the New Orleans Saints, whether that be a Fernando Mendoza or a Garrett Nussmeier. I've really only, to be quite honest with you, I've seen Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, or Drew Aller as the two picks. I haven't really seen Fernando Mendoza as the number 1 overall pick. I think he's trending in that direction, but people are just kind of scared to put him there in lieu of ridicule. But I think he's trending in that direction, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, we're going to skip on the quarterback here for now because there's a couple of different things I'm thinking of. The Saints seem like they're going to be a lot more competitive than we give them credit for. I don't think that means that they're going to win a lot of games, but Spencer Rattler really hasn't looked that terrible so far through a couple games. They also spent a top 40 pick on Tyler Shuck. And if Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore are still going to be employed, I don't really think that after spending that type of draft capital and having a couple of young quarterbacks on the roster already, I don't know if that's going to translate into the number 1 overall pick necessarily being a quarterback. Is it going to be a 95-5 split where there's a 5% chance they don't go quarterback or they trade it? Probably. But in this one, we're going to explore a different type of scenario. So on the defensive side, you have guys like Cameron Jordan, who are just so consistent over the course of his career. Demario Davis, all these older guys that are definitely going to be close to or retiring very, very soon. Cam Jordan, we haven't seen prime Cam Jordan in 4 or 5 years, something like that. It's time to get younger on that defensive line. Not only that, it seems like the Saints have kind of never completed their quest for finding that next great edge rusher. And they've had a couple guys in there that have kind of filled the void. You think of Tano Passanio, who isn't on the team anymore, and Carl Granderson, who's actually a pretty solid, underrated player in his own right, that have filled the void of that next great pass rusher. But they spent a first-round pick a few years back on Peyton Turner. They traded up in the first round a few years before that for Marcus Davenport. Neither of those picks really worked out. And I think Ruben Bain Jr. is the best player in the draft as of right now. He is an unbelievable player, and teams are 0 for 3 in their attempt to try and figure out how to block him so far this year. He's incredibly disruptive. He's incredibly athletic for his size. The guy can do it all. Even has an interception to his name this year. The guy truly can do it all, and he's as disruptive as they get in a class juiced with pass rushers. I mean, look at some of these names that are in PFN's top 150. Even Mikhail Kamara is outside of the 150. like Vincent Anthony. These guys are unbelievable players, and they're so. R. Mason Thomas is outside the top 100. Crazy to me, but that's how juiced this class is. So we're gonna go with Ruben Bain Jr. as the number one overall pick. At number two, we have my New York Jets, and I was quick to not get overjoyed about Justin Fields' Week 1 performance. And I was kind of proven right in week 2, even though it kind of seems like whatever Justin Fields was going to do was going to get negated by the Bills anyway. The Bills just have the Jets number, and the Jets looked absolutely unprepared to play on Sunday. I think a quarterback is in order. As well as Justin Fields potentially could do this year, I just don't think he is that long-term answer. Seems like a perfect bridge quarterback, especially since he's under contract next year. If you do draft a quarterback at number 2 overall, if this pick holds, you have a little bit of leeway. He doesn't have to start right away. You have a perfectly capable starter with a year of experience in the offense in Justin Fields. So I'm going to go with my number 1 overall quarterback, my early number 1 overall quarterback. That's going to be LaNorris Sellers. I think LaNorris Sellers has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft class. I think just with the unlimited potential athletically, he does not put the ball in harm's way. 2.3 turnover worthy play rate in his career at South Carolina up until this point. I think he's a player that is only ascending. We're only seeing LaNorris Sellers really just start to learn how to play the quarterback position. And newsflash for you guys, how I draft, or the players that I like, are players that I've seen do great things, but also leave a lot on the table potential-wise, because I don't want to see how good a player can be in college. I don't want you to hit that plateau in your junior year. I want to see you hit that plateau in year 5 or 6 of your NFL career. So I think LaNorris Sellers is that type of player that is still, just trending upwards in terms of the overall talent and the overall potential. At number 3, you have the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to take my quarterback 2 so far in this draft class, and that is Fernando Mendoza. I think Fernando Mendoza, really one of the knocks coming into the season on him was his lack of athletic ability, but I think he's much more athletic than he's given credit for. Just because he's a 6'5", 225-pound rocket-armed pocket passer doesn't mean that he can't navigate the pocket, escape pressure, run if he has to. He's a good overall athlete, and I think regardless of whatever the hell is going on in Cleveland with their quarterback carousel, obviously Joe Flacco is not the future. I don't really think they're too invested in Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders. And then, what do you do with Deshaun Watson at this point? Obviously, I don't think there's any coming back for him for the Cleveland Browns. That is going to go down as the worst contract in sports history. And until we see a worse one, that's going to be it. But at number 4 overall, you have the Tennessee Titans. And I'm going to take Keldrick Falk with this pick. I think on the defensive side, they're really lacking in the pass rushing department. I mean, Harold Landry was basically their best outside linebacker for the past few years. He is now he is now in New England, and they're really, depth-wise, they're really struggling at the outside linebacker position. You could argue that Peter Woods would be a good pick as well. Over here, I believe A'Shawn Robinson right now is currently anchoring down a starting spot, if I'm not mistaken. But they have Jeffrey Simmons, who I think just agreed to a mini contract extension as well. So, that not really pressed for interior defensive line help, although having Peter Woods and Jeffrey Simmons next to each other would be awesome. I think Keldrick Falk is another one of those players that it just has a lot of untapped potential. 6'5", 280 pounds. He hides it very, very well. He's got an incredible frame, incredible athleticism. He's an overall really solid player, a phenomenal pass rusher. He's getting better as a run defender as well. I think this would immediately upgrade the pass rush of the Tennessee Titans. At number 5, I'm going to go with an offensive tackle here because we're drafting in the eyes of Jackson Dart. And the offensive line of the Giants, while they do have some good pieces, has dealt with quite a few injuries. Jermaine Illuminor is going to be a free agent as well, and I think he is a player that could be upgraded upon as well. Left tackle, I'm not willing to draft a left tackle just yet. I know at number 5, drafting a primarily right tackle is kind of high, but the Jets just did it with Armand Membu at number 7, and small sample sizes turned out to be quite the pick so far for them. So I'm going to take Caleb Lomu here. I think Francis Mauigoa is a really, really good player. Technically, probably the most technically gifted tackle in the entire class. His power package is unbelievable. His athletic ability is great as well. He's a good mover in space. But Caleb Lomu is just an explosive tackle. He's a player that can get to the second level rather quickly. That is the type of tackles that this Giants offense likes. They like to get to the second, third level. They like to push their tackles up. And I think Lomu is the best overall athlete for the tackle position. Also, Mauagoa is someone that I think has an interesting build that could potentially lead him to be a better guard at the next level than tackle. And I feel like there's always one tackle prospect every year that we say that. Last year, it was Caleb Banks. The year before that, it was Talisi Fuaga, stuff like that. So I'm going to take Caleb Lomu here. I think he just fits better for what the Giants are looking for their offensive linemen. At number 6, you have the Raiders. I'm not even going to second guess it here. Peter Woods is still on the board. I know that the Raiders need cornerback help, but it's a small sample size so far this season. I think their young corners have actually played pretty well. They had Darian Porter. They drafted Decamerion Richardson from a year prior to that. Let's see how far those guys go. Get the potential best overall defensive player in the class, and that's going to be Peter Woods. And imagine putting Peter Woods up on the same defensive line as Max Crosby. They have Malcolm Kuntz. They have Tyree Wilson as well, who hasn't really lived up to his draft hype just yet, but Peter Woods is a dominant interior force, and I think he could cause some real damage in the interior of that defensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 7, you have the Carolina Panthers, and I feel like Caleb Downs gets picked every single time for the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to change up on this. Similar to the Tennessee Titans, the Carolina Panthers pass rush is kind of sort of non-existent from the outside linebacker position. I would like to change that. And this is the draft to do it because you have quite the edge rushing class. And I'm going to take TJ Parker. I think TJ Parker, while I think he's a touch overrated in the draft community, I think he's the best overall, all-around edge rusher in the class. He's a phenomenal pass rusher, and he's a extremely stout run defender as well. He's a 3-down edge rusher in a league where we don't really see it's really more pass rushing specialists, and then you rotate those 2-down run stopping defensive tackles in there to kind of clean up everything. TJ Parker is a true 3-down off outside linebacker, and I think he would fit brilliantly in this Carolina Panthers defense and automatically be their best pass rusher. Maybe outside of Derek Brown, but he's on the interior. At number 8, now seemingly with only 2 quarterbacks off the board, and the Indianapolis Colts having their pick of the litter here at number 8 in terms of quarterbacks, Garrett Nussmeier worries me quite a bit. I haven't just been overall impressed with what I've seen from him this year, and I'm not a box score watcher, nothing like that. I could sit here for hours and tell you. Different. You're not going to believe me, but it is what it is. I know what I look for. Nuss is a gunslinger type. Puts the ball in harm's way too much, in my opinion. Also, his frame isn't like the best to transition to quarterback at the NFL level. What 6 foot or 6'1", 200 pounds, a little light in the frame. That necessarily doesn't bother me. I'm more of an intangibles over frame type of guy, and he does have good intangibles, but he puts the ball in harm's way far too much for my liking. I'm a lot lower on Nussmeier than a lot. I think he's a day 2 prospect, and he won't be drafted in this mock draft, just letting you know. Aller is a really good pick here. John Mateer, it's a little early for some of these guys. Cade Klubnik or Sawyer Robertson, I think, is going to end up being a first-round pick. But I'm going to take the best player available in the draft. I'm going to forego taking a quarterback here at number 8 for the Colts, and I'm going to take Caleb Downs. I truly think Caleb Downs, added to any defense, regardless of your personnel in the secondary, is going to make that defense top-notch. And the Indianapolis Colts, while not maybe needing a hybrid linebacker or a box safety or a center fielder or whatever Caleb Downs is going to wind up playing at the NFL level because he could do it all. Having him on your defense is just an X factor. And I think the Indianapolis Colts kind of have been missing that X factor in the secondary. Kenny Moore is a great player. Charvarius Ward is okay. I do think Caleb Downs, and also the way that this regime drafts is kind of athletic profile over everything. So what better than Caleb Downs? So I'm taking the best player available on the board at number 8. At number 9, you have the Cleveland Browns here. I'm going to be taking Spencer Fano. I'm just a huge fan of drafting a franchise quarterback with a left tackle of the future or a wide receiver of the future. You could argue that wide receiver is in need here too, but the offensive line between Dawad Jones and Jack Conklin, I think it needs a massive upgrade. And give me Spencer Fano here. I think he's the best left tackle in the entire draft class. At number 10, you have the Miami Dolphins, and we are going to the secondary. The first corner off the board is going to be Jermod McCoy. I said it once last week. I'll say it again. I think even though he's not fully healthy, I think Jermod McCoy, when fully healthy and when fully at his best, probably has the best intangibles and is the best overall cornerback in the entire class. So we're going to. I mean, this Miami Dolphins team. The Miami Dolphins are tricky to do a mock draft for because I feel like any direction that you feel like you have them locked down going, they always choose an opposite direction. Like last week, I was going to draft a corner, and then I wound up drafting Jordan Tyson. But I think at number 10, you have the potential to get a player as impactful as Jermod McCoy. I think you go ahead and pull the trigger on that. And who better to be in this situation at number 11 than the LA Rams? They should be looking, I don't know if they are, they should be looking for a long-term replacement for Matthew Stafford. And at this point, they're playing with house money. This is the Atlanta Falcons pick at number 11 here. And this is a brilliant position to be in. You have, look, your pick of the litter, essentially. And we are going to be taking a quarterback, and it's going to be Drew Aller here. I think if you want to upgrade, at least play style wise, over Matthew Stafford, you're going to get a big, strong, athletic, freak of nature like Drew Aller, who also has an absolute cannon of an arm. Yes, the inconsistencies in his accuracy and overall decision making sometimes is not great, but if there is a quarterback, if there's two coaches rather in the NFL that I would be comfortable with Drew Aller going to be fixed, it would be Kevin O'Connell and it would be Sean McVay. So I think he falls into the perfect situation at number 11. At number 12, this is an interesting pick for the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of different ways that they can go. They need receiver, they need corners, they need edge rushing help, and they need offensive line help as well. We're going to go with an offensive lineman here at number 12. Francis Mauigoa, I mentioned it before. He brings the versatility that I think this offensive line needs. Now, they drafted Gray Zabel in the first round. I get it, back-to-back first-round offensive lineman doesn't really appeal to a lot of people. I love the versatility. Abraham Lucas's long-term future is always going to be up in the air, and Mauigoa could step in right away and be better than Abraham Lucas at right tackle. He could also slide inside if it's necessary to play right guard. There's a lot of versatility there for Mauigoa, and this offensive line, especially the interior, needs talent. And I think Mauigoa is a perfect fit for the Seattle Seahawks here at number 12. At number 13, you have the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to be taking a wide receiver here. We're going to be taking Jordan Tyson. He's going to be the first wide receiver off the board. I think this is a simple pick. I think looking at the box score of the Arizona Cardinals Carolina Panthers game really was telling, where your fifth highest leading receiver for the game was your number one overall receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a phenomenal talent. He can't do it alone. I know they have Trey McBride on the team as well, but outside of that, the receiver room, you have Zay Jones, you have Michael Wilson. I mean, I think the backup tight end Elijah Higgins out-received Marvin Harrison Jr. I think they need another dynamic wide receiver on their team, and pairing up Jordan Tyson with Marvin Harrison Jr. would be absolutely unbelievable for Kyler Murray. And not to mention Trey McBride, and then you have Trey Benson, James Conner. That would be an extremely fun offense to watch week in and week out. At number 14 here, you have the New England Patriots. And I think that they're going to have to upgrade the defensive side of the ball. They need another pass rusher. Harold Landry III, it was a step up from what they had. Outside of Keon White and Harold Landry, Christian Barmore is not there to rush the passer. They don't really have much on outside of that. So we're going to take Mateo Ugalele. I know I'm saying that wrong, and you could persecute me for that. That's fine. It's probably, I'm not even going to try and say it again, but Ugalele is a phenomenal player for the Oregon Ducks. 3 sacks this year. He has a sack in each game. He's an ascending player. He's also a player that I believe that could line up along the defensive line in pass rushing downs, like third and longs, second and longs, and really utilize his athletic ability between that B gap or that A gap. And he also could be a stand-up outside linebacker as well, where I think he would excel 6'5", 6'6", 270 pounds. His athletic profile is unbelievable. He's powerful. He's fast. He's a good processor. He sheds blocks very well. He's an unbelievable player that is on the rise, and I think he's very, very deserving of a top 15 selection here at number 14. At 15, you have one of two first-round picks for the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go with an unconventional one here, especially from what I've seen from the defense for the first 2 weeks. I think a corner, a boundary corner, is necessary. I'm going to take Mansour Delaney here at number 15. I think he's been the best corner in college football through 3 weeks. He is one of the top reasons why the LSU Tigers are number 3 in the country and why their defense has been absolutely unbelievable so far this year. He's acted like a number 1 corner. He's been a number 1 corner. He's great in zone coverage. He's excellent in man to man, excuse me. Jesus, couldn't really get that one out. This is also the second time I'm recording this, by the way, because I recorded the entire mock draft without sound because I forgot my mic was on mute. So this is take 2 on this. So I apologize if you think that I'm rushing through this. I don't want to be sitting in front of this computer again for 40 plus minutes. But Mansour Delaney is going to be the pick. I think, having Kaiir Elam play on the outside opposite of burnt toast Travion Diggs, and then Deron Bland's probably going to be playing more nickel. I think Delaney is a really nice find. I know they have Savon Revel as well, but and that was a second or third round pick this past year. But I'm going to take Delaney again, just overall, probably the best man-to-man corner in the class. At number 16 overall, we have the Chicago Bears. Last week, I took Peter Woods. I'm going to stick to the defensive line here. I'm going to take Caleb Banks, 6'6", 325 pounds, as disruptive as all hell, and that's exactly what I think the Chicago Bears need. You could argue a pass rusher would be good here as well, but Caleb Banks is someone that is going to absolutely eat up double teams and spit them out. And I know that they're on paper, they're pretty deep at defensive tackle. They have Gervon Dexter, they have Zach Pickens, they have Grady Jarrett. But I think Banks, honestly, at this point in all their careers, I think right away steps on the field and is probably better than all 3 of those guys. And I think he would step right into a spot and fit brilliantly in this defense. And imagine putting Caleb Banks next to someone like Montez Sweat. Don't forget, they also have Austin Booker, who was a 5th round pick out of Kansas, who I think is finally, once he gets off IR, is finally going to break out in a big way on the other side of Montez Sweat. So a lot going on there for the Chicago Bears on the defensive front. At number 17, this is where this gets juicy. I'm going to be taking a quarterback here. And as I mentioned before, I like Nuss. I love John Mateer. I love Sawyer Robertson. Okay, I guess I love Coca-Cola too, because that blew up out of nowhere. That was kind of crazy. Sawyer Robertson was my pick here last week. And you know what? The Pittsburgh Steelers fan base kind of reached out to me and said, hey, we like John Mateer. And I usually don't listen to fan bases, but you know what? If the Pittsburgh Steelers want John Mateer and he's here at number 17, who am I to not give him to them? We're going to put John Mateer here at number 17. Mateer, I think, has a little ways to go developing as an overall processor, but I think he's a phenomenal athlete with a cannon of a right arm. I think right now he projects as a better college football quarterback than an NFL quarterback, but he has all the talent in the world and all the room to grow. I think he'd be absolutely fine at the next level when it's all said and done. At number 18, you have the Minnesota Vikings here, coming off of kind of 2 rough showings for J.J. McCarthy. Besides for the fourth quarter of the game against the Bears, I mean, really wasn't too strong of a showing, especially against the Atlanta Falcons defense, which really turned up against him as well. But the Minnesota Vikings, I think, need a boundary corner. They need someone that is just going to be opposite Byron Murphy, and I think DJ McKinney is really that guy. I think he's an unbelievable player. He really has risen up my ranks the past few weeks. Just easily the most impressive player that Colorado has put out on the field so far this year. I mean, he shuts down one side of the field every single week. There's no reason why Colorado shouldn't be winning more than they are. But I think he's a phenomenal overall player, great in man coverage as well. Just kind of a do-it-all guy. His tackling could use a little bit of work, but I'm willing to compromise with that, especially when you got someone like Brian Flores coaching the defensive side. I'm sure that he can get the absolute best out of DJ McKinney. I think this would be an unbelievable pick for the Minnesota Vikings. At number 19, you have the Houston Texans. Kind of a piecemealed together backfield right now. I made this pick last week. This is one of the few picks I'm going to make again. Jeremiah Love is still sitting here at 19. Any doubts that you had about Jeremiah Love as a first-round pick or the running back 1 in this class were tossed aside against Texas A&M. He displayed everything that you were looking for in a 3-down back at the NFL level. He was an unbelievable runner. He displayed his hands phenomenally with a gorgeous touchdown catch against A&M, and he could block as well. He was a menace in that game. In a loss, mind you. But Jeremiah Love is going to be the pick. Joe Mixon is on IR. Nick Chubb is on his last legs, no pun intended. Woody Marks is almost 25, which is basically 55 if you're a running back in the NFL. So give me Jeremiah Love to be the new bell cow. And it's really going to open up the offense for the Houston Texans, in my opinion. At number 20, I'll tell you what, the Denver Broncos are one of the tougher teams to mock draft for early on in the season because it doesn't look like they need too many upgrades. It could be a best player on the board scenario, and I wouldn't be mad at that either. I'm going to look a little deeper. I think the interior of the offensive line could be improved on. Luke Wattenberg, is that their center? Luke Wattenberg, I think, is their center. Could be improved upon, but inside linebacker is really where I'm going to go. I think Alex Singleton and Justin Stranad could really be upgraded on. And last week, I think I took Chris Bell in this scenario. I took a wide receiver here, but I kind of like the forehead, the foursome that they have at wide receiver right now between Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant, Cortland Sutton, and Troy Franklin. I think that's more than enough right now, especially with Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman. I think that's more than enough for right now. I don't think that justifies taking a wide receiver again in the first round. But I love these players. You could argue that all three of these guys could make a strong case for inside linebacker one. I'm going to take Anthony Hill. I think overall, someone who blends what it means to be a linebacker and overall athleticism and processing and just having good football IQ. I feel like Anthony Hill is the best out of the three. CJ Allen is a mauler. Sonny Styles is incredibly athletic and can make any play you want. He's going to be more of that hybrid type of linebacker at the next level. Anthony Hill, 6'1", 235 pounds. He could rush the passer. He could cover. He's an unbelievable athlete. I think this would be a huge upgrade and an X factor upgrade for the Denver Broncos at number 20. At number 21, last week, I took Chandler Rivers here, and I'm going to stick to my pick with corner. I'm going to take Avion Terrell. He wasn't here last week. I think Terrell is a really nice nickel corner at the next level with the ability to move to the outside. He is a little bit I shouldn't say on the slower side, but his speed won't blow you away. And I think and his overall frame. 5'11", 180 pounds, not really blowing me away with the size. The skill, the overall technique is really, really good. He makes up for his lack of top-end speed with his skill, technique, and ability to play in man-to-man coverage. The Chargers have quite a few free agents in the secondary this upcoming season, and I think it is a group that, even though they have Tarheeb Still, they have Cam Hart, they have young corners ready to go at this point to take over as the CB1, CB2. I think I'm pairing those guys with Terrell in the slot would be amazing for the future. At number 22, we just talked about him for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to take Sonny Styles here at number 22. I don't know when the day will come where Levante David decides to stop playing all-pro or Pro Bowl level football, but that day has to be coming to an end soon. I've been saying it for like 3 years. The guy is legitimately one of the most underrated players in NFL history. I think in our era, Demario Davis and Levante David are going to go down as two of the greatest defenders of our era that were just completely underappreciated, especially Demario Davis. But Levante David has been the model of consistency since he's entered the NFL. He's been unbelievable. But Sonny Styles would be a new type of linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and for Todd Bowles to use. And I think that he would excel tremendously in this defense. At number 23, the second first-round pick for the LA Rams. They just got their future franchise signal caller. I'm going to take Will Lee III here. Again, another player that I think just really demonstrated his overall talent in the Notre Dame game this past Saturday night was Will Lee III. He was awesome in coverage. Sticky Will. I don't know if that's what his nickname is. I heard it on the broadcast. I don't remember what it was, but since I just randomly called him Sticky Will, that's going to be his nickname from here on out. But yeah, an overall fantastic corner that really has that it feels like anytime the ball's thrown in his direction, he could really make a big play out of it. And I do like his overall play style quite a bit. So Will Lee III, I feel like the Rams could use a secondary upgrade as well. So we're going to take him at number 23. At number 24, One of the few picks that I will make again. Last week I took Isaiah World. I'm going to take him again here. I do think that he is the left tackle of the future for the San Francisco 49ers. That is a position that is not going to be, up for discussion. That is one of the most important positions on a football team. You can't go a season or two without having a permanent-ish left tackle. And I think World is going to be the next man up for them. He's a phenomenal overall player. 6'8", 309 pounds. Could serve to gain a little bit of weight, but he's just overall an explosive athlete. Someone that really, he's been unbelievable for Oregon. Every transfer that Oregon has got this year has been really, really good for them. And Isaiah World is one of those players that maybe you don't recognize him because he plays on the offensive line, but he does a thankless job and he does it very, very well. He's been improving every single week, and I think it's worthy of a top 25 selection. Now, going into our last quarter of this mock draft here, at number 25 overall, I have the Bengals, who now are probably going to be in search of another offensive lineman in the first round. I saw a funny tweet before I make this pick. It said that in America, where like 50% of the people are obese, the Cincinnati Bengals can't find 5 obese guys to block for Joe Burrow. And I think that was a really funny thing to say because it seems to be true. But Ted Karras is a player that I think needs to be off this team immediately. I think an immediate upgrade at the center position needs to happen. And I think Connor Lew is that player. He is my number one interior offensive lineman in the class. I think he's unbelievable. He's a fantastic athlete. A little, 6'5", 302 is a little light, but he really makes up for it in overall power and athleticism. He is an immediate upgrade over pretty much anyone that the Bengals are going to parade out there at the center position. So we're going to take him at number 25. At number 26, you have the Dallas Cowboys for their second first-round pick. We took Mansour Delaney with the first one, and if Danny Dennis Sutton is sitting here at number 26, why not double down on the defensive side of the ball? He's an immediate upgrade, in my opinion, over Sam Williams. He is a player that, you have Donovan Ezriaku on one side now, who's extremely explosive, fast. Then you're getting a more stronger technical version of a rusher, but with the athletic upside in Danny Dennis Sutton. I think that is your pass rush of the future right there. I think he would be an awesome addition, an overall upgrade, and they have two high level upgrades over the players that you currently have in those positions right now for the Dallas Cowboys. At number 27, I think I took David Bailey last week in this spot. I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball here. I'm going to take a receiver. I like Jalen Lane as a long-term gadget type of wide receiver. Terry McLaurin just signed a huge extension. I don't know if we're ever going to see the same production as we saw last year from him. Deebo Samuel is Deebo Samuel. They need a field stretcher. They need a dominant alpha type of X wide receiver that is going to be able to win the ball down the field. And Chris Bell, for me, is that guy. Over guys like Carnell Tate and over guys like Antonio Williams, 6'2", 227 pounds. He is phenomenal. I've been quite enamored with him the last couple of weeks. And he's a player that I think is going to continue to trend upwards towards a first-round selection when it's all said and done. A phenomenal overall player for Louisville and a hell of an upgrade on the boundary for Washington. At number 28, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. Speaking of Oregon players that have boosted their stock, Kenyon Sadiq is that guy. He kind of entered this year as a project, but through the first 3 weeks of the season, I don't think anyone in the FBS has boosted their draft stock like he has. He has been awesome. He had his best game of the season early in the season. He had his best game of the season this past week against Northwestern. An unbelievable player, athletic, explosive, great blocker as well. He's just overall, for me, he's tight end number one. And I think he's very worthy of a first-round selection here. Even though Travis Kelce has actually had a decent start to the season, you could tell that he's lost a step or two speed-wise. And also, I think that this is his last year regardless anyway. So I don't think Noah Gray and Jared Wiley are going to be your players going forward at the tight end position. I think you're going to need a big, bad, physical, all-around tight end, and that's what Kenyon Sadiq can bring for Patrick Mahomes and co. And moving on to number 29, the Detroit Lions here. We're going to upgrade a strength yet again. I'm going to go to the offensive line, a long-term replacement for Frank Ragnow after his retirement, I think is in order. You could argue that a pick here for a potential left tackle of the future would make a lot of sense here as well with Taylor Decker. I think on the last year of his contract or in the second to last year of his contract. Also a player that isn't too bad but could be upgraded on as well. But I think Jake Slaughter would be a really nice long-term pick here. Just keep that young. I mean, they have Tate Ratledge, what, at left guard or right guard? I don't remember. And then you have Christian Mahogany on the other side as well. So you have your young guards of the future right there. You have Penei Sewell, who's probably the best right tackle in football. Overall, I think that would be an excellent addition to the offensive line. Keep that train going. They've had the best offensive line in football, or one of the best offensive lines in football for 5 years now. Keep that moving. The Buffalo Bills at number 30, and that was going to be my pick for the Bills, was going to be Jake Slaughter, a long-term replacement over Connor McGovern. But watching the Jets and the Bills, I think this offense is really missing that alpha explosive type of wide receiver. And I think Mekhi Lemon could be that player for them. I know they took Keon Coleman last year in the second round. He's had an okay start to the season. Khalil Shakir has the second most yards after catch in the NFL in the last 2 seasons, only behind Jamar Chase. If you want to use that as a water cooler discussion at your jobs, you could thank me later. Overall, I know they signed Josh Palmer. I just think that they don't have a wide receiver that you could throw a screen pass to and he could take it like 80 yards to the house. And I think that's exactly what Mekhi Lemon can do. Phenomenal overall route runner, good soft hands, late hands as well. Just a really, really good overall wide receiver, excuse me. And I think that he's one of the few that I would consider. I think this is a really good wide receiver class, but I don't know if there's any true top-end talent outside of the Jordan Tysons, Chris Bells, and Mekhi Lemons out there. So we're going to take Mekhi Lemon here at number 30. At number 31, you have the Baltimore Ravens. Here we're going to upgrade the pass rush. There's a player that I've had my eye on for quite a while. As a Texas A&M fan myself, Cassius Howell has really stood out to me over the last couple weeks. A couple weeks ago, he did the sack trick against Utah State, 3 sacks on 3 plays. That was awesome. But he played really well against Notre Dame as well, made a couple really strong tackles for a loss in the backfield, consistently pressuring. He's a player that I don't think has fully developed as a 3-down player at the NFL level. He's more of a pass rush specialist, but a long-term replacement over Kyle Van Noy. He can be that. They just drafted Mike Green as well, getting younger in the pass rushing department. They still have David Ojabo. Noni Madueke is from the defensive line as well. That they're in good hands. They could draft Howell as a pass rush specialist for now while he works on the rest of his game. At number 32 and the final pick in this mock draft here, I'm going to go to the offensive line because we know Howie Roseman loves to draft long-term offensive linemen and long-term defensive linemen. You could argue a pass rusher would probably make a lot of sense here as well, and I would 100% agree with you. There's a player that I think is a long-term right tackle of the future for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's going to be Xavier Chaplin for me. Playing left tackle right now, but we know that the front office of the Philadelphia Eagles does not mind to move players around. We saw it with Tyler Steen. We saw it with Cam Jurgens. We saw it with Mekhi Becton last year. We saw it with Landon Dickerson as well. They're not afraid to move guys around. And I think Xavier Chaplin coming over to Auburn this year, he has a lot of eyes on him. I think he's played very well at the start of the season, only getting better as time goes on. And I think that he would be a monster of a player. 6'7", 330 pounds around there. He's a monster of a player. I think he's a good mover in space as well. Physical, puts people into the ground. That's exactly what you want to see. I love a tackle that loves to finish off blocks. And I think Howie Roseman loves those players as well. So we are going to draft him here with our last pick in this Week 2 mock draft. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is my first round mock for Week 2 of the NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Again, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy content like this. I'm going to try and upload every single day. I've been doing it for about a week now, and we're going to go all throughout the draft season. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.